Hello everyone. Today we will learn about the I-level learning philosophy and self-directed learning. Perhaps the best representation of I-level's philosophy is the one that has been shared for decades and is currently on our website. The story of an educator at the Smithsonian Museum. One day, a man visited the museum. In front of each piece of artwork at the museum, he bent down to rest at his knees and looked up to see the pictures. People around him asked why. He replied, "Well, I'm an elementary school teacher. We're having a class field trip to this museum. So I came here beforehand to see how the works of art would look from the eye level of the children. I need to put myself at the eye level of the children to properly explain these works of art to them." This approach matches I-level's learning philosophy. We respect children's views and dreams rather than impose rules and thoughts from adults upon them. In our interactions, we consider each child's individuality and ability, and we encourage children to be the leaders of their own learning. Since each child grows at his or her eye level, we want to guide students to become those who learn and think for themselves, similar to the benefit of teaching people how to catch a fish, instead of catching the fish for them. In other words, eye-level education is not teacher-centered. Education at the teacher's eye level, but children-centered education at the children's eye level. This is the definition of eye-level learning, and it is also our goal. Eye level is the key to self-directed learning. We nurture problem solvers, critical thinkers, and lifelong learners. Then, what is self-directed learning? The concept of self-directed learning is not only for the I-level program, but is a commonly used term nowadays. We can find several self-directed learning resources on the internet, and this is one of them. Self-directed learning is a process by which individuals take the initiative, with or without the assistance of others, in diagnosing their learning needs, formulating learning goals, identifying human and material resources for learning, choosing and implementing appropriate learning strategies, and evaluating learning outcomes. The most important factor of self-directed learning is that the person who takes a major role in self-directed learning is the student, him or herself, and he or she should be proactive in the learning process. Let's look at the components of self-directed learning. Self-directed learning does not mean studying alone. Studying alone is self-learning. We expect our students to be proactive learners, so they get motivated to study, plan strategies at their eye level, and implement the plans using good time management. But there should also be mentors or facilitators to help with each student's learning process. The mentors or facilitators are the instructor and parent. They do not fill the student's mind with their knowledge, as one might try to do in a lecture. Instead, they provide a better learning environment and external motivation so that the student keeps on studying. They also help the student to set a goal and provide guidance towards achieving the goal. So, we might say the role of instructor and parent involves academic coaching. Now, let's take a look at the process of self-directed learning. First, students need to set a goal. Goals can affect one's whole life. Have the student think about what they would like to study in higher grades at school or college, or what they want to be when they grow up. Then, how can we narrow down what they need to achieve their goal? The next step in the process of self-directed learning is planning. To develop a plan, it is important to set a date to see the final result, as well as identify the detailed task to achieve the goal. A deadline is important because it makes us move one step closer to the goal. Generally, people can become convinced that they can accomplish short-term goals. So, by achieving several short-term goals, eventually it leads to achieve long-term goals. The third step will be academic coaching and self-directed learning. With an individualized goal and plan in place, weekly academic coaching and self-directed study also involves studying the booklets and other supplemental material. The last step in the process of self-directed learning is reviewing performance. While the student implements the plan and works towards achieving the goal, the student reviews whether the plan, process, or tools that he or she is using have been properly selected or have been effective. For example, if the student planned for 1 hour of math study per day, but he finds that he or she needs 2 hours, then he or she can modify the plan. It is not adapting him or herself to an arbitrary plan, but adapting the plan for him or herself and their goals. As individual goals are met, new goals should be set by the student. Through these 4 steps, students will develop stronger willpower and the strength to continue their learning with specific and achievable goals. We have learned the steps of self-directed learning. Now, let's look at the I-level learning process. Before any child starts I-level study, we have him or her take a diagnostic test. The objective of testing is to place the student at the most appropriate point within the I-level program, so that he or she can work with ease and confidence. We call this the starting point. At this stage, the instructor helps the student to build up short-term goals as well as long-term goals. In addition, the instructor consults with parents about the student's current learning status and expectations after 3, 6, and 12 months of study at I-level. After diagnostic testing, the student comes to an I-level learning center at a designated day and time to engage in self-directed learning under an instructor's coaching. The I-level program involves small steps and the concepts learned in lower levels that are used again in higher levels to achieve advanced content. So, when a student moves up to the next level, he or she does not feel so much difficulty and rather feels more confident. I-level programs also have assessment tools such as level tests for math, as well as achievement and comprehensive tests for English. These tools provide opportunities to check the student's learning status and modify a goal depending on the assessment results. Based on the learning results, I-level instructors communicate with parents. This is important because parents also play a role as mentor, and they cooperate to motivate students and provide a better learning environment for students. When setting a goal with a student, it's important that we utilize the SMART criteria. That is, each goal should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Goals should be clear and precise. The approach or task that the student is expected to take should be clearly identified. It is important to establish concrete criteria for measuring progress towards the attainment of a goal. If there are intermediate benchmarks, those should be identified, as they may be critical in maintaining the enthusiasm needed to achieve bigger, long-term goals. Goals should also be realistic and attainable. A stretch target can be identified, but it should not be extreme, or it may become meaningless or discouraging. Goals should matter to the student, as well as be in line with the instructors' and parents' plan for the student's overall development. A goal that is relevant can become more easily internalized, driving the student forward as he or she takes ownership of the steps to achieve it. Time roots a goal in reality. A target date helps a student keep focus. It also ensures that short-term pressures do not distract or block a student from the ultimate goal. The time that is estimated to achieve a goal should be relative to the age and level of development of the student. For example, a long-term goal for a preschool student could be to get to the next concept in 2 weeks or to finish the level in 1 month. A long-term goal for a fourth grader could be to finish their current level in 2 months, or to finish the entire English program before the end of the 5th grade. Returning to the overall I-level program and self-directed learning, we must consider the results of I-level learning and what we are working towards. We will see that the student will become a self-directed learner who has improved academic ability in math and English, improved independent learning ability, improved problem-solving ability, and increased motivation and enjoyment of learning. Before we go any further, now let's try a pop quiz about self-directed learning. Number 1. Self-directed learning means studying alone. Is this true or false? Yes, you are correct. The answer is false. To implement the 3 factors of self-directed learning, which are motivation, cognition, and behavior, a mentor's coaching is required, and constant feedback should be provided to students to assist in achieving the desired outcome. Here is a second question. A child who studied according to the plan that the parent made is a self-directed learner. What do you think is the answer? The answer is false. A self-directed learner makes his or her own plan and carries out this plan. Number 3. A child who goes to a learning center is not a self-directed learner. The answer is false. One of the key points of self-directed learning is that the student knows what kind of resources he or she needs to take to improve. So, when the student herself or himself decides that he or she needs to go to a learning center to improve his or her math or English skills, he or she is a self-directed learner. Now, I would like to introduce I-Level's learning tool that helps self-directed learning, the Key and Note. There are currently 3 versions of the Key and Note, one each for math and English, and a third version which can be used for any subject. Let's take a look at the Key and Note pages more closely by discussing how you would guide a student to use these tools. Open the first page and look first to the top left of the Key and Note. First, have the student write down the subject name, math or English. Then, in the section titled My Session Schedule, have the student write the day and the time that he or she will attend. Then, in the section My Attendance Sheet, have the student write the date for the class session and put a check in the box. It means he or she is attending the class that day. Next, have a student write his or her long-term goal in the section My Goal. Goals shouldn't be necessarily related to math and English. It can be connected to the student's personal daily life. For example, it may be building up a habit of finishing packing up one's school bag before going to sleep, or raising one's hand more, or doing presentations at school once a week for shy children, and so forth. Moving on to the top right side of the page, have the student write down today's date. Then, have the student write down what he would like to learn today. In the main section of the right-hand side of the page, students can do more writing, number, alphabet practice here. For students aged 10 and up, have them redo the questions that they got wrong. In this way, when they complete the whole notebook, they have a compilation of questions that they once struggled with, but have gotten better at with practice. And it is a good parent consultation tool when students need review. Next, at the end of the study session, let the student choose how he or she feels about today's class and write down what he or she liked the most in today's classroom session. Next, the instructor selects one of the comments about how the instructor perceived that the student was doing in class. At the bottom of the page, parents can write comments about what they would like to communicate with the instructor about the child's learning. This is another tool to aid in self-directed learning. It is found at the back page of Key and Note. The whole chart is divided into 24 hours. With this tool, the student can subdivide the day and write down their daily plan with the parent's assistance. In this way, they can better visualize how they will use their day. I hope that this presentation helps you to understand better the I-level philosophy and self-directed learning. Thank you for your attention.